Hey, how's it going? We're gonna go live. I want to talk a little bit about. Hey, how's it going? We're gonna go live. I want to talk a little bit about some quick, simple, what do you say? Principles of art that are gonna help you draw. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna work on this as well, and I'll probably talk about the things I'm working on. This is what you call a. How do you call it? It's just a page out of my sketchbook, and it's just an assortment of random things from my mind. And I think that is something that I think a lot of you guys should do if you're not already doing. You want to do like this like fun page. So I just turned on the light there in front of me. It's like a fun page that you can kind of do stuff with and be creative with, and like that is honestly what we got into this for, right? I'm assuming that some people got into it to draw portraits and draw people, but for me, I got into this so that I could, draw whatever I wanted out of my head, right? If you need reference, absolutely do that here and there. And there's different types of ways of going about drawing. But yeah, if your goal is to draw right from your head, which was mine, and I wanted to just create rando stuff and rando weird, interesting things, or just like obviously this is a Goomba, but yeah, that's kind of what you want to do. Doing that is kind of requires a lot, and I want to talk a little bit about what goes into drawing whatever you want out of your head. So in the beginning, right, you need reference for everything, right? Anything and everything. And you're probably never going to get rid of reference if you're doing like a job, for example. So for example, if you're making like, I don't know, a project or a comic or something, let's say related to sharks, right? And you're like, oh, I drew sharks in the past. You can draw a shark from your mind for sure, unless sharks is like your specialty. But you're probably gonna have to look at reference to kind of jog your memory, because that's what you're doing. You're pulling this stuff from your mind, and you're like, okay, what do I have to do to kind of get that part of my mind back? It's kind of like when you're not talking a language for a while. You know, your mind's not warmed up to that language if you haven't spoken it in years. So it's very similar with the subject you're going over, like what you're drawing is really, really important. Let me see, I want to make this read a little better. There you go. So same thing with drawing. So in the beginning, right, you're pulling up references, you're looking at stuff, and you're thinking, okay, how do you draw a person, right? You need references for a person. You need references for animals, for objects, for every single thing, right? So you do that for, I want to say like several years, because even with reference, right, drawing people is pretty tough. You do that for many years. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, it's kind of up to you. And then you start trying stuff out of your mind, and you'll start drawing rudimentary, let's say, people and faces where, you know what I mean? They look like comic stuff. Not comic stuff. They look like there's no reference to it, right? There's like a style to it. And you start drawing these rudimentary faces for a while, and then you have to go, you need reference, you need to cross-reference. There you go. You pull up maybe faces of people, and you're like, okay, like that's what's going on there. But I would encourage you, right? Let's just say you've been drawing for a little bit. Maybe you're not a total beginner, but maybe you've been drawing for a little bit. I would encourage you to test yourself out. And this is the test that they gave me a long time ago. So the test is, and I actually got this from Marshall Vandruff, I think, great teacher up in Fullerton. And so what he was saying, and this totally works, draw something really slow, right? Whatever it is. Let's just say you're drawing like, I don't know, an anime head or something. I don't know. If you're drawing something, draw it really slow, like with reference. And when I say slow, I mean, let's just say like a full hour, like meaning like a focused hour, not just back and forth, like a focused hour, like you're really kind of, you're really spending time on it. So do that and then see what comes out. And you're like, all right, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Whatever it is. It could be 2 hours, whatever you like. It could be a whole day. It depends on you. Do that. Then do the exact same drawing. You could do it maybe with reference as well. Do the exact same thing if you needed reference to the first one. Do the same thing. This time do it in 15 minutes, right? You decrease the time. And if you're like really bold, you can do it like maybe if you feel confident, do it like without the reference or something, right? You could do that. But when you do that, what you're doing is you're trying to see how much is in your instinct, right? How much is in your quick? Because it's almost like a different portion of your brain is activating. There's the first part where you're like deliberate about it, and then the second part where it's what's left inside, pretty much, where you don't have time to think, right? Sometimes what you're going to find out is the quicker one might be better. That's been weird. That's why they have quick sketches in life drawing. Sometimes they let me move up to this guy right here and do something with this guy. Sometimes you'll find out that it's much worse, and you're like, "Whoa, like this is horrible." Sometimes it'll kind of show what you got in your mind there, pretty much when you draw quicker. But the shocking thing is, so there's two things that could happen. One, when you draw it and it's better, it's going to give you a lot of confidence. You're like, "Oh wow, okay, I guess," because it makes you not overthink, right? When you give yourself a deadline, like a sharp deadline, like a 15-minute deadline, whatever, 10 minutes. If it goes well, like I said, you're gonna get confidence from it. If it goes terrible, it just kind of shows you where you're at. Like, okay, cool, I need to do a little more work there, you know. But that's kind of what I've heard is like one of the purposes of quick sketches when you go to class. I don't know if you've ever been in a life drawing class, but in a life drawing class, they'll do like long drawings, right? From life, they'll do like what 30-minute segments sometimes, and then the whole thing. They'll take a break in between, and overall, it's like 2 hours on one drawing, and then they'll have like 5-minute drawings, right? 5 minutes, boom, timer. 5-minute, boom, timer. And the model will pose in these like 5-minute poses, and you can draw these quick sketches, which tend to be a lot smaller. But that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to work between those two parts of your mind, right? At least those two ways of how it's practiced. But yeah, that helps a lot because, some things don't need to take forever. I've found that out for me. I also, just on a side note, I used to be a caricature artist, and that really helps you with speed because I had to draw people like as cartoons, and they kind of expect it within like 10 to 15 minutes, depending on like what kind of caricature you're asking for. If they want like a goofy one, or if they want like a non-goofy one, like a cute one. So it just kind of depends on that. Just to go really quickly into that caricature thing, because I had a question about that caricature stuff. Because this is not that. Caricaturing, and maybe I'll talk about it once. So I did that job for 5 years in a theme park. I did caricatures for 5 years. And I always tell people it was like the best job and the worst job I ever had in my life. Because it was the best because it was like pretty much my first art job. And it gets you kind of used to the habit of like having customers. And it was scary too. Like I would say the very first one I ever did there, like the first time I got like a legit customer, I was like shaking, like my hand was shaking. It was like hard. It was like really hard to do it. It was wild. And, that first year was really scary because you can reject those drawings. I don't know if people are aware of that. When you have those cartoon drawings, you can reject them. They can reject them if they're like too offensive or whatever, or not offensive enough. It's funny, but they can reject them. But and then the second year, it was like one of the best jobs I ever had in my life because I was outdoors. I was in a theme park. I'm outdoors. It's social. You're drawing, so you're getting some drawing practice in. And the money was like not good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like the worst. So it was like actually the best job ever that second year. Third year, I would say about the same. It's probably one of the best jobs I ever had, the caricaturing. And then fourth year, it's like it starts to get old. You're just like, oh man, I have a farmer's tan because I'm outside all day. I might be getting skin damage for being out here all the time. The guests are all the same because a theme park, you kind of get the same kind of person over and over and over again, same kind of families. And you're like, man, this is boring now and it doesn't feel fulfilling. And I'm like, how long am I going to be here? And, those thoughts creep in to my head. And that's pretty much, I think, year 5 or 4. Yeah, year 4 was bad. And then year 5 was worse. And I just quit. And I'm like, without a backup plan, I was like, I just got to quit this job because it was just like not fulfilling overall. One of my coworkers went on to have a gigantic has a gigantic Instagram and TikTok. Actually, I think it's caricature parties. He's like a huge. He might be the biggest caricature channel, I think, on Instagram and TikTok. I don't know about TikTok, but on Instagram, he might be the biggest caricature channel. He's got like 1.5 million or something. Him and his wife, they live out in Hawaii. His real name's Aaron Philby. But yeah, that's cool, man. That was the guy I worked with. He kind of more or less trained me, so it's pretty neat that he's still doing that, because that was their passion. Okay, let's go back into technical drawing real fast. This guy up here, I don't know what he is. He looks for a demon dude. Let me move that down. He is just sitting there, only liner. Actually, you know what? Let's go into this guy right here because he's closer. This dude right here, he's like jumping in. It was just some guy on the whim. His armor right here, I guess it's fabric. I'm working with this is like an older sketch, right? So, okay, it's a fabric. I want it to make that armor, but it's not going to be, well, it's not going to be at least armor that stays still. So I was thinking more like it's like I don't know what that is. So I'm thinking of the design as I'm doing it right here, and that's funny because we're just kind of messing around, but I am thinking about the design as we're going into it. He's got some pants underneath. His face, I just want that to be a hard face mask, just to kind of simplify it right now for myself. It's a really small drawing. Scale really, really, really matters a lot. So if I had this guy's head right here and I blew it up to the size of the page, I'm going to get all the nooks and crannies and all the wrinkles in his face or whatever mask. But if you shrink it down like this, just like a thumbnail size, yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. You can kind of do it, absolutely. And I know some people who are like really OCD and they will absolutely try really hard to do that, but you're never really going to get all the detail that you can out of like a larger drawing. So since it's small, I'm just going to simplify it for myself and just make it a hard mask. I guess I could do this thing, put maybe make it like a pseudo skull a la Dr. Doom, right? Or that musician, something like that. Going over here and just kind of like tidying up the nooks and crannies. Like, where is this going to attach right there? That's obviously like a shoulder pad. His shoulder's underneath it here, but it looks a little bare. So I want to put another little shoulder pad right here sticking out. Just kind of, that line's a little bit too thick. So what I would do is I would probably draw like a slightly thicker line. And I've told you guys the rule on that. When you're drawing thicker lines, it creates more focus. So if I don't want more focus there, I'm going to have to even it out by putting it everywhere. Okay, stomach. Maybe he's got like some some sort of fabric around his waist. That's the thing. This guy, I didn't think hard about his design. He was just going to be a part of the larger page right here. So I didn't really think about like what influence or era or any of that stuff. Because if it was just him sitting on the page, I would think about that. I would think about what culture, cultural influences come from his outfits. It doesn't mean he has to belong to them. I'm just saying like, hey, where does this come from? Like, to kind of put some more thought behind it. Probably throw a little bit of a shadow down here because his arm's going to cast a shadow onto his torso, just a bit. There we go. We just kind of like do that there. So I'm putting down my shadow pattern relatively quickly, and then I'll think about it later. Like meaning, like, okay, the shadow pattern's down, but as far as like how dark and now not how dark it is, like where it seeps in over here in the fabric, I'll think about that later. I'm more or less kind of putting down notes for myself with the simple drawing, and then I'm going to go into it later. His hand is missing, okay? Let's go into his hand over here. What do I do with his hand? All right, he's going to be holding like a knife right here, so it's going to be like a fist, and then it's going to have like a handle there, but the handle's going to have to go behind his mask right there, right? And then the handle, we have to draw through the form. You don't have to draw through the form, but it's because it's pen, but I want to make sure that handle makes sense. Because if this handle doesn't make sense, the viewer knows it. I want to talk a little bit about sometimes getting advice or having so this is a big debate too, by the way, on on previous lives. People were saying stuff like, do you take advice from a non-artist? And I've made like videos on it too. Look, Non-artists, meaning people that don't draw at all, will absolutely like they have like no, what from my experience, if something looks weird, a non-artist will be able to identify it. They'll be like, "Oh, that looks weird." But the difference is I'll ask why, and they will have no clue how to fix it, right? So that's a frustrating thing. I get it because my sister used to do that all the time to me. Literally, my sister would be like, "Hey, that looks really weird." I'm like, "Okay, well, tell me how to fix it." And she's like, "I have no clue. I just know it looks weird." I'm like, "Okay, dang," So now I got to figure it out. But another artist will have will tell you like, "Oh, that looks a little elongated, or that looks weird, or whatever." They'll give you a little bit more specifics, like, "Oh, maybe if you make this a little bit sharper or darker or whatever, that'll offset that." That's kind of it. But there is good feedback when non-artist will tell you, "Hey, yo, that looks weird." Don't go like, "Oh, they don't know anything," right? There's something weird about it. You're making it for an audience. Okay, I don't know why I'm doing some sort of sword here. So pulling it. Let's just give him like some sort of sword that goes off the page. I don't even know if you can see this anymore. Sorry, it's way at the edge of the page here. So I'll put a little line over here. I'll do like a sword shape that goes somewhere way off. There you go. Right on. Sword shape that goes off the page. Sweet. So that's notes for me later, right? So now I can kind of darken it. I can maybe render that later on. Over here, I can kind of like change the shapes of certain things. His armor looks too bare, meaning there's no design on it. And that can totally work. But, for a little kind of rando knight dude now, or whatever he is. I'm still like I'm trying to figure out what he is. I think I want like something to break up the form of the where the design would be in larger flat areas. And these areas aren't complicated enough to. You know what? Let me think. Maybe I will leave this as is. Hold on. Yeah, because it is a smaller drawing. Maybe I can just leave it dark. You guys are kind of seeing how I'm thinking through something right now. Let me see. His other hand, where would his other hand be? His other hand would be like coming out over here, right? Dang, that's going to be annoying. Let me see. So his other hand would be somewhere maybe, okay, if I'm pulling back a sword that way, where's my other hand? Actually, my other hand would be like, my other shoulder would be like over here, right? It'd be probably in the back. But then how am I going to do that over here? Dude, okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a shoulder pad up here because it'd be up here, right? Your hand would be pulled back if you're attacking forward with a weapon like that. Obviously, the proper way to do it, if I was doing like a real job, this would be a place to use reference. I'd be like looking at movies or just kind of acting it out outside somewhere and filming myself. That's how goofy it gets. But his arm would be kind of like back here, I think. Yeah, that looks. Oh man, it's hard because this other dude gets in the way, but something like that. Yeah, and then I'd have to like flesh that out later, which I will. I don't have big triceps. That's cool. It's also fun to draw triceps. I think, drawing muscle characters, because I'm watching Dragon Ball right now. Again, I'm watching Dragon Ball Super. So, dang. See, I think I'd have to go in there and kind of be more meticulous with some of the shading there. I'm kind of more or less, sorry if I'm blocking the view there. I want to put something in here. I want to really fill up the page. So what can I put in here? I'm trying to think. Maybe like a sword or something. What can I put? Such a small space. Oh God, what can I put in there? SpongeBob? No, that's stupid. Maybe like a lion head, like a tiny one. I don't even know if I can do that. See that one. I don't draw a lion. I don't see. That's the thing. I want to draw lions more. I don't draw a lot of lions. So maybe what I could do is draw a little like, yeah, some sort of baby, really tiny thing right here, and then maybe like a saber-tooth head, just to kind of fill up the space because this is just my sketchbook. right? This is just my rando sketchbook page. You kind of want to make it like, I mean, you don't have to, but I kind of want to make it like a Where's Waldo of like, what is happening here? Oh, okay. You know, like investigate. So that's kind of like my little goal on this, to kind of totally see what I'm doing here. These are notes, right? On proportion. So these are literally notes on proportion for myself, for my future self, to go back and render stuff. I'm not thinking kind of in finished product terms right now. I'm thinking in, okay, that's there. That's positioned here. How do I get, what can I do to make this readable? Dang, that's a weird little head. Kind of regretting it, actually. But anyways, yeah, we'll go back to that. I'll probably work on this page again later. But that's pretty much it for the live. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. You guys are super nice. Everybody's been ultra nice to me ever since I've been going live. And I post a video every day. And yeah, I want to keep doing that up until hopefully, I hope TikTok doesn't leave. But we'll see. I hope it doesn't. But I'll keep doing it every single day. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. All right. We'll talk soon.